Welcome to Beyond the Textbook, Making Ag Education Interactive. Today we're going to go through a few titles of ag that we offer at GW, and then we're going to talk about some instructional strategies and ways that can make them more interactive. So with me from the GW team, I have a few members, Alan, Aaron, Katrina. They're going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have questions going along, feel free to enter them in the chat. We're more than happy to get your questions answered as we go throughout each title. Also, grab your smart device because we will be scanning QR codes and you want to make sure that you can be interactive with us. So with that, let's get started. So my name is Mandy Green, the Professional Services Manager at GW. Just means I love all things professional development and instructional design. Today, as we go throughout this Beyond the Textbook presentation, we're going to talk about ways to enhance our teaching strategies, because if you're like me, I use the same 3 strategies forever. Effective textbook utilization and differentiation strategies. So first, out of the gate, grab your trusty smart device, open the camera app, and scan the QR code. When you get there, it's going to open a Mentimeter. You're going to type your response in the box and then hit submit. I also put the link in the chat if you'd rather use this activity on your laptop or computer rather than a smart device. So I'll give you just a moment to scan that QR code. The question is, what is the biggest challenge you face in keeping your ag students, or all students, engaged with classroom content? So when you get there, type your response in the box, and then we're going to see what is the biggest challenge that we face. As you're doing that, I'm going to slide mine over from one screen to the next. So there are some more responses coming in. We can see that some people are typing in here. So some responses currently: cell phones. I hear that quite frequently. Too much computer, maybe too much computer time. I've been hearing that more frequently, leading professional development throughout the country. Variety in lesson presentations. Getting them to understand we are more than a farm and we can be helpful. Exactly. I'll give you about 30 more seconds to type your response and hit submit. So these are some of the biggest challenges that we are facing, keeping our students engaged with classroom content. Oh, they're not interested in ag, got placed in the class. I hear that. I used to be a high school counselor and I heard that story all the time. That absolutely happens. So there's several things that are keeping our students from really being engaged with our classroom content, right? And given the common challenges of keeping ag students engaged with our classroom content, it's going to be essential that we explore strategies that can make the learning experience more dynamic and relevant. So one effective way that we can achieve this is by carefully selecting and utilizing textbooks that are both informative and engaging, by incorporating textbooks that offer a variety of features like real-world examples, interactive activities, multimedia components, so educators can create more stimulating and effective learning environments. Speaking of those multimedia components, did you know that in the GW Ag Pathway textbooks, we have over 75 videos in our video library? We'll get to more of that in just a moment. So with that, let's start with our first book, Exploring Ag, Food, and Natural Resources. This is an introductory text for middle school students about AF&R literacy to really build excitement for the whole variety of opportunities available in ag education and careers as they develop interpersonal skills, gain hands-on immersion in STEM, and begin to plan those SAE or supervised agricultural experiences. Some topics that you'll see in this Exploring AF&R include things about food science, soil science, plant science, animal science, wildlife and natural resources, agriculture engineering, and even connecting with producers and consumers. Other things that you'll notice in this one, this textbook is designed specifically for middle school students. It's going to talk about FFA opportunities, SAE, and career exploration. And also this new edition, that's a 2024 edition, has been written by authors who are currently involved in middle school ag education. Now, how can we make this book more stimulating and interesting? So let's talk about the instructional strategy called I Notice, I Wonder. It's a really simple and effective strategy promoting critical thinking and observation. So it encourages students to actively engage with information, first by noticing details, then generating questions about what they observe. So this strategy helps our students develop curiosity, analytical skills, and the ability to make connections between different pieces of information. So how could you use this with your Exploring Agriculture, Food, and Natural Resources textbook? So there is a poster that we have created that you will be able to access in just a moment. And you can show this to your students. Ask them first, what do they notice? They can jot down what they noticed. And the second part is you'll ask them, what do they still wonder about? This prompts them to ask questions about what they are wondering about the information on the poster. Then you could have them share with a partner, share in a small group, and then share in a large group, because we know when students share small to large audiences, participation increases. Let's jump to our second one, Principles of Agriculture, Food, and Natural Resources. So this is a really user-friendly visual introduction to the systems and concepts that define modern agriculture, including those food systems and natural resources. This text is aligned to the AFNR standards, providing that practical information on building leadership, communication, and career-ready skills while integrating pedagogical tools designed for learner success. Some things that you'll notice in this textbook that have been updated. You'll notice, for example, in lesson 3.1 from chapter 3, Experiential Learning for Agriculture has been revised to include FFA's SAE for All, which is designed to provide opportunities for students living in urban, suburban, and rural areas. You'll also find things like a new lesson in 7.7 about the principles of electricity that include tools, basic circuits, theories, and simple hands-on activities that are easily performed in the classroom or in a lab. So you'll see it covers everything from ag safety to ag science, technology, power and engineering, ag math, the importance of food, large livestock production, all the way to forestry. Some features that you'll see throughout this textbook include the SAE for All program content. You'll see that this text really introduces students to the vast amount of agricultural careers available through real-life SAE for All profiles and those career connections that include educational requirements and even current salary ranges. Also through this textbook, you'll find many opportunities for students to think critically with questions that are found in the features, captions, and in the chapter review and assessment. So how can we engage students more with this principles of AFNR text? Let's think about the instructional strategy called 6-word memoir. This is really a creative writing exercise, and we like writing reflections to support reading and language acquisition. This one challenges students to express their personal story, experience, or reflection in just 6 words. This concise format encourages students to distill their thoughts and emotions into a powerful and memorable statement. By focusing on brevity, students are forced to select the most essential words to convey their meaning. So what does that look like when it's applied to your textbook? First, you could assign a section of the chapter to read, and then ask students to summarize what they just read by creating a 6-word memoir. For example, in the upper right-hand corner, you see a section of the business action plan from the textbook. After students finish reading the section on the business action plan, you could ask them to create a 6-word memoir. An example of that 6-word memoir might be something like Business Plans Guide Informed Decision-Making. All right, are you ready for the next title and how we can make it more interactive with instructional strategies? Great. Let's talk about small animal science and care. This is a new first edition, provides today's educators and students with a new and refreshing comprehensive resource for this growing industry. It covers topics that are timely and related to students' interests, such as animal welfare, the roles of animals in society, animal nutrition, and even pet first aid. This fresh approach to small animal care appeals to all and engages today's high school students with up-to-date information and full color images. Some things that you'll find inside of the textbook includes topics ranging from employment skills to animal welfare to genetics and the different types of animals, small animals that you'll find on that right-hand side of the table of contents. Some things that you'll also see inside this textbook. It's a comprehensive text that really focus on engaging our students. You'll see more of those real life SAE for all profile and career connections. Whoa, sorry about that. You'll find charts, you'll find graphs that really bring the content to life for our students. Thinking about bringing the content to life, let's introduce the jigsaw method. So this is a cooperative learning technique that promotes collaboration, teamwork, and understanding. So bringing some of those real world skills to our classroom. In this activity, students are divided into expert groups and assigned a specific topic or task. They learn about that topic, and then they come back and share it with their new teammates. So how does this work in your small animal class? As you can see on the right, you can take sections of your chapter and divide it into smaller sections. This is great to increase comprehensive because many of our students, if you're like mine, when I was teaching, you would ask them to read the chapter and they would shut down because their reading level wasn't there. This method helps students become experts on smaller sections of the text, and then they're going to share that information with others. We have this examples on the right-hand screen already broken down and ready to share with you at the end of this presentation. Next, animal science. Principles of production, management, and selection. So this text introduces students to the important scientific and applied concepts within the global and domestic animal industries. It serves as an in-depth and hands-on resource for animal science courses. It begins by covering the basics of animal science. It includes careers, anatomy and physiology, animal health and nutrition, genetics, reproduction, scientific method, products and byproducts, as well as current issues facing animal scientists. It then proceeds with animal-specific sections on beef cattle, swine, sheep, goats, dairy cattle, equine, poultry, and companion animals. In the table of contents, you'll see that this animal science is really a core course within the pathway of ag education. Like I said, it covers animal science, it covers current issues impacting animal science by animal type, as you can see on the screen in the table of contents. Then, some other things that you'll notice, it's really an image-rich text. Check out the breeds and the selection chapters, which really support preparation for FFA career development events, such as livestock judging. You'll also see within that the animal sections cover content from industry to production to management to selection to evaluation, classification, and breeds. So how can we help bring this title to life in the classroom setting? One example, let's talk about Snap, Clap, Pop. This is a really fun, engaging instructional strategy that gets students moving. It can be used to review or assess student learning as well. So in this instructional strategy, the students are going to be asked to respond to different prompts with different physical movements. It could be a snap, it could be a clap, it could be a pop, it could be a raise the hand, it could be a stand up, a sit down. And it's just a quick and easy way to gauge student understanding of the content you've covered. We've already created an example of this snap, clap, pop using the animal science textbook, and we'll share this with you at the end of the session as well. All right, let's wrap up with our last two. Let's switch gears to horticulture. This text inspires students to develop an appreciation for the diversity of horticulture. I can't talk today. This is my second webinar. Horticulture and participation in work-based learning with numerous tools to plan their SAE. So this text is really a contemporary overview of horticulture industry, but it does include leadership, communication, business skills, plus thorough coverage of plant science and step-by-step horticultural practices, landscape design, and maintenance. In the textbook, you'll see chapters ranging from plant biology to soils and media to plant nutrition to floral design to interior plantscaping and much more. Some features that you'll see in this book, you'll have hands-on horticulture, which features, it introduces students to professional skills and can be used actually as mini projects while using the student lab workbook that comes with this textbook. You'll also find an identification glossary that really provides instructors and students with virtual and printed means of studying plants, tools, disease, pests, and more. So let's think about this from an instructional strategy. How can we dive into this content and interact with it in a different way? How about the one called surprising, interesting, or troubling? Or I just like to call it SIT. It's another reflective writing strategy. So once again, we're supporting reading and language acquisition that encourages our students to really dive deeper into their understanding of this topic or the content of our horticulture class. By promoting students to identify aspects of the material that they find surprising, interesting, or troubling, we as educators can then encourage critical thinking, analysis, and further personal engagement. This strategy can be used with any text. It can be used with articles, videos that you'll find in those ag video libraries, or even classroom discussion. What might this look like in your hort class? For example, as you can see the image of the hydroponics content from the textbook, students might read the content and look at the picture. And then you as the instructor would ask them, what is surprising? What do they read or what do they see that is surprising? And they could jot that down and record it. Then, what is interesting? Have students record what they found interesting in the text and or image. Then, what is troubling? Sometimes my students would have trouble coming up with a troubling fact or idea, and sometimes that would be a question. We'd let them ask a question in that spot. Then, you can have students share with peer-to-peer, small group, whole group. You could even have students record these on sticky notes, and you could collect the sticky notes. You also could use the Ask a Question feature in Google Classroom or on your learning management system to collect the responses for surprising, interesting, and troubling. Next, principles of floral design. So this textbook really introduces hands-on skill and theory required to begin a career as a floral designer. This heavily illustrated textbook begins by introducing that floriculture industry and careers, the history of floriculture, and design principles and elements. Some topics that you'll see from the table of contents includes a new chapter 1, the floral industry, presents an overview of the industry and related fields. New chapter 2, you'll see everything about career planning. It guides students through the job application and employment process. Also, you'll find illustrated glossaries with over 400 color images throughout this textbook. What are some features that you'll find in the textbook? You'll find 75 new or revised step-by-step procedures created to help students and teachers learn proper design arrangements through illustration and detailed instruction. You'll find highly illustrated textbook with over 1,200 color images, including flower, foliage, dried materials, potted plants, illustrated glossaries to really engage students' interest, pique their curiosity. And you'll find up-to-date content as well throughout the book. Thinking about an instructional strategy, let's think about caption this. So Caption This is a strategy that encourages students to develop critical thinking and communication. In this activity, students are presented with some type of image or illustration and asked to write a caption that describes, interprets, and maybe even adds a humorous twist to the image. Let's see what this might look like in your Principles of Floral Design textbook. On the right, you can see there is an image from the textbook, and then there is a bubble, a thought bubble, above his head. So you would ask students to create a caption for this image. In this, you could ask them to create a question from what's he thinking, of course, but you could dive deeper into the content. Why did he select those flowers? What is he trying to show with those flowers? How do their plants go together? So you could ask students to get a little more deep into the content in the thought bubble. We also have this created for you that we'll share at the end of the webinar so that you have some instructional strategies that are already created for you for different titles. All right, but let's not just stop at the textbooks. Goodheart-Willcox really goes beyond the basics to support your entire ag education pathway. So in addition to our comprehensive textbooks, we offer a wealth of engaging content, including online learning suites, lab workbooks, and video libraries. This is really to ensure a well-rounded learning experience for your students. So you can, of course, head over to our website at g-w.com to explore all ag-related titles and discover the perfect resources to create that thriving ag program. But before we head off to the website, let's think about some of the content that we cover today as ways that we can overcome some of those challenges of engaging our students. So you're going to type your response into the chat box of the webinar, but what was your point of most significance in our webinar so far today? So thinking about the 6 titles that we covered and some of the instructional strategies to line up with those titles, what was the point of most significance? What stuck out to you today? When you're ready, type your response in the chat box. Let's see what are some points of most significance from today's webinar. We have a few people typing. I can see you're typing, so thank you. All right, so the jigsaw method to help encourage reading, right? And Mike, I happen to teach in schools that my students never read on grade level. So it was a great way that I could help my students feel empowered and read our classroom content, even when they didn't read on grade level. And then they could become experts on their paragraph and teach others, which was really empowering for them to build some student agency. Snap, clap, pop. Yeah, absolutely, Rebecca. I love Snap, clap, pop. It is great for beginning of the school year, beginning of the day, get students moving. If you're looking for any of those types of strategies, it's a great strategy for that. Catherine's talking about breaking down the various methods in which we can utilize the textbook. So it's not traditional textbook work assignments. Absolutely. So we can incorporate some instructional strategies so that students can interact with the content in slightly different ways and hopefully engage them. Alan had never heard of SIT, right? So it's just a different way to have students evaluate that content, to dive a little bit deeper, activate some critical thinking skills by identifying and classifying that information, like what was surprising, what was interesting, what is troubling that they read. Absolutely. We have a couple more people typing, so we're going to see what they said, and then we're going to move on to a few more things. Let's see. Thank you so much for participating. It's always so fun when we get to learn with and from each other in these webinars. And thank you, Melissa, also for your words. Sometimes words are hard. Absolutely. I feel like I talk so much sometimes at work, words get hard. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Also, Melissa, seeing that there are options open to us with integrated teaching methods. Absolutely. I feel like as a teacher, I use the same strategies over and over, not realizing that there's hundreds of other strategies I could have used that might have better engaged my students. So absolutely. All right, let's jump back into the webinar. So speaking of all of those strategies and some of your points of most significance for today, did you know that we just covered 8 instructional strategies? So let's recap these 8 instructional strategies we discussed today. So these strategies, of course, when effectively implemented, can significantly enhance student engagement and learning in your class. To really delve deeper into how these strategies can be applied to your ag textbook, scan that QR code. Because when you do, it will take you to a Google Drive folder where I have curated all of our free ag instructional strategy resources for you and posters, and put them in the folder to share with you so that you have easy access. They're also found on our Tools for Educator website. That's part of the GW website. So you can find them and download them from Tools for Educators section as well. But these are just really practical examples of how to use these instructional strategies in your classroom. So we had the bell ringer, which is where we went to the Mentimeter. We talked about our challenges. We had the I Notice, I Wonder strategy, 6-word memoir, jigsaw, which is really a reading strategy, snap, clap, pop, which adds some physical movement into our classroom. Sometimes it's nice to get up and move around during the school day. Sit, caption this, and then also that point of most significance is a great reflection or exit ticket that we just did. So as an instructor, I can use POMs or point of most significance in my classroom, and it helps me identify what stuck with my students for that lesson that day. So those are the 8 instructional strategies. Feel free to take a picture of it. This is also being recorded so that we'll share the recording with you, so you can recap all of those instructional strategies as well. Also, on the sell side of things, if you're looking for ways, we have different ways and resources to purchase your CTE courses. So you can always look into your Perkins funding, and we have this information on our GW website. Also, if you saw a textbook that you were interested in today, we do have free samples on our website. I say request a sample is the right word. Scan that QR code. It'll take you to a form that you can fill out and request a sample of an GW ag title today. So if you picked up on it, we started with exploring AFNR, then moved to principles, and then we moved to animal science, small animal, which fulfills that animal science pathway. And then we finished with hort and floral design, which when paired with principles and exploring ag, that would fulfill that floral design or horticulture pathway as well. So we have many ag titles that can fill your entire ag pathway at your school. And if you'd like a sample, you can scan that QR code. So with that, I'm going to leave that up for just a moment to give people time to scan the QR code. I'm going to say thank you so much for joining us today. I know Aaron and Alan have been monitoring that chat and filling in content. If you have questions, please feel free to unmute or drop your question in that chat, and then we'll get some answers for you as we can. Other than that, I'm going to say thanks for joining us today. This webinar will be emailed to you, and we will have a recording on our on-demand library as well as our GW YouTube page, so you can pick up the recording there. Hope you have a great afternoon, and we'll hang out for a minute or so for questions. Other than that, we'll see you around, and have a great one.